The most dangerous people in your life are not always those who hate you, but those who quietly convince you that sacrificing yourself for them is a virtue. From the moment we are children, we are taught that goodness means giving without limits. We are praised for forgiving endlessly, helping without question, and placing the needs of others above our own. Somewhere along the way, many of us begin to believe that love requires self-sacrifice, that kindness means tolerating disrespect, and that walking away from harmful people is an act of selfishness. But what if that belief is not wisdom, but one of the greatest illusions ever placed upon the human mind? Think about your own life for a moment. Have you ever poured your heart into someone who never appreciated it? Have you ever stayed loyal to a person who repeatedly betrayed your trust? Have you ever carried the emotional weight of someone who refused to carry even the smallest responsibility for themselves? If your answer is yes, then you have already discovered a painful truth that many spend their entire lives trying to avoid. Not everyone who enters your life deserves your time. Not everyone deserves your forgiveness. And certainly, not everyone deserves unlimited access to your peace. The human soul possesses a remarkable ability to endure pain, but it also carries a dangerous weakness. It often mistakes familiarity for love and guilt for responsibility. We convince ourselves that if we are patient enough, compassionate enough, or selfless enough, the people around us will eventually change. Yet history, psychology, and ordinary life repeatedly reveal the opposite. A person cannot be transformed by your sacrifice if they have no desire to transform themselves. The greatest tragedy is not meeting toxic people. The greatest tragedy is allowing them to shape your identity until you no longer recognize yourself. Every broken boundary, every ignored instinct, and every silent compromise leaves an invisible mark upon your character. Eventually, you stop asking whether someone deserves a place in your life, and instead begin asking why you are no longer at peace. Today, we are going beyond simple advice. We are stepping into the hidden landscape of human nature to uncover a difficult but liberating truth. There are certain people who deserve nothing from you. Not your trust, not your energy, not your endless forgiveness. And understanding who they are may be one of the most powerful acts of self-respect you will ever learn. There is a dangerous misunderstanding that quietly shapes the lives of countless people. We are taught that everyone deserves endless chances, endless forgiveness, endless access to our time, our energy, and our hearts. We are told that saying no is selfish, that protecting ourselves is cold, and that walking away from certain people is a failure of compassion. But life eventually reveals a painful truth. Not everyone deserves a place in your inner world. Some people enter your life not to build it, but to consume it. They feed on your kindness, exploit your patience, and mistake your silence for weakness. The tragedy is not that such people exist. The tragedy is that many never recognize them until they have lost years of peace trying to satisfy those who could never be satisfied. The human mind has a deep desire to believe that every person can be saved if only they are loved enough. Yet history, psychology, and ordinary life repeatedly tell another story. Lasting change can never be forced upon someone who refuses to see themselves honestly. No amount of sacrifice can transform a person who has chosen comfort over growth. Understanding this does not make you cruel. It makes you conscious. True compassion is not giving endlessly without wisdom. It is knowing where your light can truly make a difference, and where it will simply disappear into darkness. The first people who deserve nothing from you are those who repeatedly betray your trust without remorse. Every relationship is built upon invisible threads of trust. Once broken, those threads can sometimes be repaired, but only when genuine accountability exists. Imagine a friend who constantly spreads your private struggles to others, apologizes only when confronted, and repeats the same behavior again and again. Eventually, the apology becomes another tool of manipulation rather than a sign of transformation. Psychological research consistently shows that trust is rebuilt not through words but through sustained behavioral change. When actions never change, believing promises becomes self-deception. Offering unlimited trust to someone who repeatedly destroys it is not kindness. It is abandoning yourself. The second people who deserve nothing are those who feed on your guilt. Some individuals have mastered the art of making others feel responsible for their emotions. Every disagreement becomes your fault. Every disappointment becomes your burden. They use phrases that quietly imprison your conscience: "If you really loved me," or "After everything I've done for you." Consider the adult child who spends years sacrificing career opportunities because a controlling parent constantly reminds them of past sacrifices. The relationship appears loving from the outside, but beneath it lies emotional captivity. Healthy love invites freedom. Manipulation creates obligation. A person who continually weaponizes guilt is asking you to carry a burden that belongs to them alone. The third people who deserve nothing are those who refuse all responsibility for their own lives. There are individuals who blame every failure on family, society, luck, or circumstance, while never confronting the choices they themselves continue making. Picture a man who loses one job after another, yet insists every employer was unfair, while refusing to improve his skills or attitude. Eventually, those closest to him become exhausted trying to rescue someone who refuses to participate in his own rescue. Clinical psychologists often describe this as an external locus of control, where people believe their lives are controlled entirely by outside forces. While circumstances certainly matter, lasting growth begins the moment responsibility is accepted. You cannot build a future for someone who refuses to build it alongside you. The fourth people who deserve nothing are those who celebrate your failures but quietly resent your success. Not every smile hides goodwill. Sometimes the loudest applause disappears the moment you begin to grow beyond another person's comfort. Imagine finally starting a successful business after years of struggle, only to discover that certain friends become distant, sarcastic, or dismissive. Instead of sharing your joy, they search for flaws in your achievements. This reaction often emerges from unresolved insecurity rather than genuine dislike. Your growth forces them to confront the parts of themselves they have neglected. But allowing such people continued influence over your life slowly teaches you to shrink your potential just to preserve their approval. Your dreams should never become smaller to make someone else feel bigger. The fifth people who deserve nothing are those who repeatedly reject every opportunity to become better, while demanding that the world endlessly adapts to them. Every human being carries wounds. Childhood pain, betrayal, rejection, and fear leave marks on us all. But wounds explain behavior, they do not excuse it forever. Think of someone who continually hurts those around them, then defends every action by pointing to past suffering without ever seeking healing. Trauma deserves compassion, but refusing to confront its consequences only spreads pain to others. Studies on resilience repeatedly show that many people who endure extraordinary hardship eventually create meaningful, responsible lives because they choose self-awareness over self-pity. The difference is not the wound itself, but the willingness to face it honestly. When someone consistently rejects that path, they cannot expect unlimited access to the peace, energy, and forgiveness of those around them. The greatest act of kindness is not giving everything you have until nothing of you remains. True kindness begins with wisdom. It knows the difference between helping someone grow and allowing someone to repeatedly drain your spirit. Compassion without boundaries eventually becomes self-destruction, and forgiveness without accountability often becomes permission for the same wounds to be inflicted again. Your peace is not something you owe to everyone. Your trust is not a gift that should be handed to those who repeatedly break it. Your time, your energy, and your heart are among the most valuable things you possess, and they should be invested where they are respected, not merely expected. Life becomes lighter the moment you stop trying to save people who have chosen not to save themselves. You cannot heal someone who is committed to remaining wounded, nor can you build a meaningful future with someone who refuses to leave the prison of their own excuses. Sometimes the most loving decision is not to stay, it is to walk away with dignity, leaving others to face the consequences of their own choices. Remember, protecting your inner world is not an act of cruelty, it is an act of responsibility. Because every moment you spend feeding toxic relationships is a moment stolen from the people, dreams, and purpose that truly deserve your attention. So before you offer another chance, another sacrifice, or another piece of your heart, ask yourself one question. Are you holding on because they deserve your loyalty, or because you are afraid of what will happen when you finally choose yourself?